So you step outside, you feel that warmth on your face, and, you probably just take it for granted. I mean, it's just the sun.
Right, it's just always there.
Exactly. But the sunlight warming your face right now is actually ancient. It was forged in this literal nuclear furnace long before modern humans even walked the earth.
It is honestly terrifying and beautiful all at once.
It really is. So today we are taking a deep dive into the mind-bending astrophysics of our closest star. But we're also doing something kind of entirely different with this information.
Yeah, we are. We're looking at the intersection of that really hard science and, ancient spiritual insight.
Yeah.
Because when you place modern astrophysics right alongside classical Islamic exegesis, like the Tafsir, the Hadiths, the Quran, you start to see how the literal physical reality of the sun mirrors these incredibly deep moral and philosophical lessons.
We're pulling from a pretty massive stack of sources today, too.
Oh, yeah. We're synthesizing everything from university-level quantum mechanics and modern sleep science from Stanford to the 11th century origins of optics.
And the linguistic breakdowns from classical scholars, right? Like Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi and Fakhruddin al-Razi.
Exactly.
It's basically an exploration of the universe's ultimate nuclear engine and what it actually teaches us about being human.
Yeah, and to grasp those spiritual metaphors, I think we really have to wrap our minds around the sheer scale of the sun's physical reality, which, for the longest time, humanity was actually way off base about.
Oh, completely. I mean, even Charles Darwin was incredibly stressed out about the sun.
He was entirely consumed by it toward the end of his life.
Wait, really? Darwin?
Yeah. So in the 19th century, prominent physicists believed the sun was generating heat through gravitational contraction or by burning fuel like a giant lump of coal.
Like a literal cosmic campfire.
Right. But if you run the math on a coal-burning sun of that size, it would burn out in a few million years. And Darwin's theory of evolution, which was based on the fossil record, it required a massive time span.
Like hundreds of millions of years for species to evolve.
Exactly. So if the physicists were right about the sun's age, Darwin's entire life's work was fundamentally flawed.
Wow. So he went to his grave in 1882 still worrying about that timeline, right?
He did, yeah. It wasn't until Albert Einstein came along with the equation E=mc² that the paradox was finally solved.
Which proved that mass and energy are essentially interchangeable. Like you can convert one into the other.
Yes, and the efficiency of that conversion is what gave Darwin his billions of years. If you completely convert just 1 single gram of matter.
Which is what, about the mass of a paperclip?
Yeah, a paperclip. If you convert that into pure energy, it produces the equivalent power of burning 15,000 barrels of oil.
That is just insane.
And the sun is executing this conversion on a scale that basically defies human comprehension. Deep in its core, the temperature is 15 million Kelvin.
Okay, what is that in everyday terms?
That's about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. At that heat, atoms are completely stripped of their electrons. You just have bare nuclei violently smashing into each other. It triggers what's called the proton chain.
Right, because gravity is squeezing the core so intensely that hydrogen protons fuse together to create helium.
Exactly. Every single second, the sun fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I really need to push back on the physics here.
Sure.
If the core of the sun is essentially a continuous hydrogen bomb detonating 600 million tons of material every second, why doesn't the sun just blow itself to pieces? Like, what is keeping that unimaginable explosion contained?
Well, that is the beautiful balance of astrophysics. It's known as hydrostatic equilibrium.
A hydrostatic equilibrium.
Right. So you have this massive, continuous outward explosion from the nuclear fusion. But simultaneously, you have the crushing inward weight of the sun's own immense gravity.
So we cancel each other out.
Exactly. The inward crush perfectly matches the outward push. They hold each other in a flawless, suspended stalemate. And out of that 600 million tons of hydrogen fusing every second, About 4 million tons of matter is completely annihilated.
Just wiped out of existence.
Wiped out as mass, yeah. Converted entirely into energy.
And here's the wildest part about that energy escaping. Because when that reaction happens, it creates a gamma ray photon. But that photon doesn't just shoot out straight into space, right?
No, not at all. The core is so densely packed with this plasma that the photon can only travel a fraction of a millimeter before it crashes into another particle, gets absorbed, and then gets spat out again in a totally random direction.
It's essentially trapped in the ultimate cosmic pinball machine.
That's a great way to put it. Physicists actually call it a random walk. That single photon bounces around and it loses a tiny fraction of its energy with each collision.
So it shifts from a highly lethal gamma ray down to an X-ray, then ultraviolet, and finally to the visible light spectrum.
Right. And because the core is so impossibly dense, it takes that photon anywhere from 100,000 to 1,000,000 years just to bounce its way to the surface of the sun.
Wow.
But once it finally breaks free, it crosses the vacuum of space in just 8 minutes and hits your eye.
So the light you see today was literally born 1,000,000 years ago.
Yeah, it's wild.
And that immense, ancient energy output perfectly anchors the spiritual texts we are examining. Because chapter 78, verse 13 of the Quran refers to the sun specifically as a radiant lamp.
Yes.
And framing the sun as the ultimate emitter of light actually touches on a massive turning point in the history of science.
Oh, it completely dismantled the dominant scientific paradigm of the ancient world.
Right, because for centuries, brilliant minds like Plato and Euclid operated on what's called emission theory.
They genuinely believed that human eyes acted like lanterns, like shooting out invisible beams of light to illuminate the objects we look at.
Which places human beings at the absolute magical center of reality. The universe is dark until we actively look at it.
Right. But an 11th century scientist named Ibn al-Haytham flipped that human-centric view entirely on its head. In his pioneering book of optics, he rigorously proved that light does not emit from our eyes.
He used the camera obscura, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He proved it emits from luminous bodies like the sun, the literal radiant lamp we just talked about, and it travels in straight lines, bouncing off objects and entering our eyes as receivers.
He essentially established the foundational mechanics of how light actually works.
Exactly.
And that concept of the sun as a primary life-giving emitter is echoed so beautifully in classical Islamic exegesis. Fakhruddin al-Razi, who was a 12th century polymath and scholar, wrote an extensive commentary on Sūrah al-Syams, which is a chapter of the Quran named the Sun.
And al-Razi noted that the sun's morning light, which is called duha in Arabic, it acts like a trumpet blowing the breath of life.
The metaphor he builds there is just profound.
It really is. Before the sun rises, the world is still, it's dark, and essentially dead. Sleep itself is actually often framed in these texts as a minor form of death. But when the sun breaches the horizon, it physically pulls humanity out of that state. It triggers photosynthesis, it warms the atmosphere, and initiates the entire daily cycle of biological life.
So the nuclear furnace, operating millions of miles away, is the literal mechanical trigger for this philosophical awakening on Earth.
Beautifully put, yeah.
So the sun spends 1,000,000 years pushing this light out into the void, and it acts as the breath of life for us. But that light doesn't just hit Earth. It bathes our entire celestial neighborhood, which dictates how the sun interacts with the rest of the night sky, most notably the giant rock orbiting us.
The moon.
Yes, which brings us to the second verse of Sūrah al-Syams, by the moon when it accompanies it.
And the linguistic breakdown of that specific verse reveals a lot about the intersection of language and astronomy. Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi, in his massive commentary Tafsir Bahrul Muhith, digs really deeply into the Arabic vocabulary here.
Okay, what does he find?
Well, he cites earlier master linguists, guys like al-Fara and az-Zajjaj, who analyzed the word tala, which translates to follows or accompanies.
But they clarify that this isn't just following in a spatial sense, right? Like a car driving behind another car on the highway.
Precisely. The classical linguist pointed out that the moon follows the sun in a dependent sense, because it actively takes its light from the sun. The ancient Arabic word captured this deeply nuanced reality. The moon is a follower because it is a receiver.
Which perfectly maps onto modern astronomical consensus.
Yeah.
The moon is just cold, dark rock. It generates zero light of its own.
Zero.
Every ounce of moonlight we see is entirely reflected sunlight.
And what's fascinating here is how Al-Razi takes that astronomical mechanic of reflection and applies it directly to the human condition.
How so?
He views the moon as a profound symbol for creatures that receive divine truth or knowledge from an original, pure source. The moon's entire purpose in the night sky is to take the light it receives and reflect it into the darkness for others to see by.
Wow, it's the ultimate analogy of a cosmic broadcaster and a relay satellite.
Yeah, exactly.
The sun is generating the signal. The moon doesn't create the truth. It just acts as a mirror to bounce it into the dark corners of the earth. And human knowledge transmission works the exact same way.
It really does. None of us are born with inherent wisdom.
Right, we learn by absorbing light from teachers, from books, from experiences, and our moral imperative is to be the moon, to reflect that light back out to people who are currently in the dark.
It takes a very cold fact about orbital light reflection and transforms it into an ethical mandate.
It's incredible. But, when we start talking about the orbit of these celestial bodies, we run into one of the most debated aspects of the historical texts regarding how the sun itself actually moves.
Yeah, this is a massive point of discussion.
There is a very famous hadith where the prophet asked his companion, Abu Dhar, where the sun goes after it sets. And the prophet explained that the sun goes and prostrates beneath the throne, then it asks for permission to rise.
And critics have historically pointed to this exact text to argue that the tradition promotes a geocentric universe.
That the earth is completely stationary and the sun is literally orbiting around us, pausing under the earth to bow down before circling back up.
Right. But let's address the language of observation first. When the text says the sun sets and rises, it is using the universal language of human perspective.
Yeah, even today, astrophysicists at NASA use the terms sunrise and sunset.
Exactly. In astronomy, this is called diurnal motion. It's how the sky appears to move based on the rotation of our own reference frame, the Earth. The text is communicating with 7th century observers in terms they actually experience.
That makes total sense.
And beyond the observational language, the underlying claim of the critics, that the text implies a stationary universe, it just ignores other explicit verses. The sun is not sitting still, it is tearing through space, dragging our entire solar system with it at over 500,000 miles per hour.
As it orbits the center of the Milky Way galaxy.
Exactly. And the Quran explicitly acknowledges this continuous dynamic movement. In chapter 36, verse 40, it states, each in an orbit is swimming.
Swimming. I love that imagery. Okay, so the sun is swimming through the galaxy. But how do classical theological scholars interpret the idea of a giant 15 million Kelvin ball of plasma prostrating beneath a throne?
This requires a massive paradigm shift in how we define worship and prostration.
Okay, walk me through it.
Theological giants like Ibn Taymiyyah and al-Khattabi address this as a matter of the unseen cosmic order. The Quran repeatedly states that mountains, trees, thunder, and stars all exalt and prostrate to the Creator.
So prostration, in this universal sense, is not defined by a human forehead touching the ground?
No, not at all. Prostration is defined as absolute, unwavering submission to the physical laws and divine order established by the Creator.
Oh, wow. So gravity and orbital mechanics are literally the acts of worship.
Exactly. The sun's prostration is its flawless obedience to the laws of astrophysics. It fuses hydrogen at the exact rate it was designed to. It maintains its hydrostatic equilibrium. It follows its galactic orbit without a millimeter of deviation.
It submits completely to the physical parameters of its creation.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think of it like a tiny microscopic bug crawling across the floor of a mosque or a cathedral while humans are praying.
Okay.
That bug has zero comprehension of human spirituality, language, or posture. It cannot grasp what a human prostration is.
Right.
In that same vein, we shouldn't force our highly limited anatomical definition of kneeling onto a celestial body. The sun is doing its job perfectly, submitting to the laws of physics.
And that perfect submission, that flawless cosmic order, is the only reason life on Earth is actually possible. The precision of the sun's mechanics directly dictates the reality of your daily life.
Which is a perfect pivot. Let's bring this galactic scale right back down to your backyard. Because the sun governs our seasons, but not in the way a lot of people assume.
Yeah, a very common misconception is that summer happens because the Earth's orbit gets physically closer to the sun, and winter happens when we drift further away.
But the distance fluctuation is actually minimal, right?
It is. The seasons are entirely dictated by a geometric angle. The Earth is tilted on its axis by precisely 23.5 degrees.
Think of it like shining a flashlight at a wall. If you stand straight in front of the wall and shine the light, you get a tight, intensely bright, hot circle of light. That is summer. Your hemisphere is tilted directly toward the sun, receiving concentrated energy.
Right.
But if you walk to the side and shine that same flashlight at a steep angle, the beam spreads out. The same amount of light is stretched over a much larger area, making it dimmer and cooler. That is winter. Your hemisphere is tilted away, receiving dispersed energy.
It is a delicate geometric balance, and it's worth noting that human activity is currently disrupting the effects of that balance.
Yeah.
Climate change is actively altering our seasonal durations, stretching out the heat of the summers, and aggressively shrinking the cold periods of the winters.
Which is alarming.
It is. But beyond the macro level of the climate, the sun's light is basically micromanaging your own biology.
Oh yeah. Researchers at Stanford Lifestyle Medicine recently published this fascinating study on the circadian rhythm, which is your body's internal biological clock. They found that light is the ultimate Zeitgeber, which is a German term that literally means time giver.
And the biology of this is just remarkable. When you step outside in the morning, the sunlight hits specific receptors in your eyes. Those receptors send a direct electrical signal to the brain, halting the production of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone.
And it simultaneously sets a 12 to 14 hour biological timer for when that melatonin should be released again that night.
Yes. Just 30 minutes of daytime sunlight anchors your entire neurological system to the rotation of the planet. It is the biological tether that keeps your body functioning optimally.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture and take that Stanford biological data and overlay it with the classical Tafsir, the thematic overlap is staggering. Let's look at the structure of Sūrah al-Syams one more time. The chapter opens with a rapid-fire sequence of massive cosmic oaths. The Creator swears by the sun and its morning brightness, by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it reveals the sun, and by the night as it conceals it.
It paints this picture of a universe built on flawless, mandatory pairs. Day and night, light and reflection, gravity and fusion. It's a system of absolute order.
But after establishing that macro-level cosmic harmony, the text pivots dramatically. In verses 7 through 10, it abandons the galaxies and focuses entirely on the microscopic, invisible reality of the human soul.
Which is such a shift. Why build this massive astronomical runway just to talk about human behavior?
Exactly.
Well, it's because of the contrast in free will. Abu Hayyan and Al-Razi both highlight that the physical universe has no choice but to submit. The sun must burn, the earth must tilt, the moon must reflect. It is mandatory obedience.
But the human soul is the anomaly in the cosmos.
Right, it is given a choice. The verses explicitly state that the soul is inspired with an understanding of its own wickedness and its own righteousness. You have the agency to choose between purification, which the scholars align with light and fortune, or defilement, which they align with darkness and ruin.
It essentially positions the human being as a microcosm of the entire universe. Just like the Stanford researchers proved that your physical body deteriorates if it doesn't align its circadian rhythm with the physical light of the sun. The classical scholars are arguing that your inner life deteriorates if you don't align it with the light of sacred knowledge and ethical behavior.
Abu Hayyan draws a literal parallel here. He compares the daytime, the illuminated, productive hours, to the acquisition of sacred knowledge and truth. And he compares the night to the lack of tranquility and the spiritual confusion that comes from ignoring your moral compass.
Wow.
Yeah, when you choose to purify your soul, you are essentially harmonizing your internal world with the external order of the astrophysics we've been discussing. You become like the day revealing the sun.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the sky with all of this in mind, it completely shatters the mundane experience of just a Tuesday morning sunrise. I mean, we started out today inside the crushing gravity of a nuclear core, watching 4 million tons of matter get annihilated into pure energy every single second.
And then we followed a single photon on a million-year random walk out of that plasma, only to see it bounce off the moon and become the subject of complex Arabic linguistic analysis, teaching us how to reflect truth in the darkness.
We looked at the geometry of our planetary tilt, the biological timers in our retinas, and the profound realization that the sun's blind obedience to the laws of physics is its ultimate form of worship.
It's basically a masterclass in how hard science and spiritual philosophy aren't inherently at war. They were just different vocabularies trying to articulate the exact same magnificent reality.
The physical mechanics explain the how of the universe, and the spiritual texts offer a framework for the why. Together, they demand that we look at our place in that system with a lot more intention.
I couldn't agree more.
Which leaves us with one final thought to carry with you today. We talked about the random walk of the photon. The warmth you felt on your skin when you stepped outside today was generated by a fusion reaction up to 1 million years ago.
That is still hard to wrap my head around.
Right. That exact beam of light was fighting its way to the surface long before the first human cities were ever built, long before your ancestors existed, just so it could hit your face this morning. So think about the energy you are putting out into the universe right now. What actions, what ideas, or what light are you cultivating in your life today that might take a lifetime or even generations to finally break the surface and illuminate the dark for someone else?